what was thought of as a small fire has grown into an inferno, one that's had to put off taking lives and dividing a nation. The war between the Ethiopian National Defense Force and the Tigray People's Liberation since November of 2020 has caused lives. Now, monuments have fallen, friends have become foes, and now a nation is turning its back on its own over ethnicity. Now, thin lines are drawn, brotherhood is tested, war crimes are being committed, and the unity of a nation faces arguably its biggest test yet. Today on VSA, we'll look at developments in Ethiopia. Welcome, I'm Sulaiman. On Thursday, January 13, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent a letter to the Executive Board of the World Health Organization asking for the dismissal of its Director General, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, for advancing a political interest at the expense of Ethiopia. Dr. Ghebreyesus, an Ethiopian of Tigrayan extraction, has spoken loudly and frankly against the actions of the Ethiopian government in Tigray, the troubled northern region of the country. For more than 400 days, the Ethiopian National Forces, supported by Eritrean forces, have been in battle against the Tigray People's Liberation Force, the TPLF. Access to food and medicine are blocked. Children are starving, the sick are getting weaker, and the ill and not healthy again. Now, the DG of the WHO, Dr. Ghebreyesus, described what's happening in his country and home region as an insult to humanity. Joining me to look at this, two great Africans, David Matsanga, African Affairs Analyst, and Simon Tesfaye, a Tigray national and founder DW Foundation. First, I'd like to welcome you both, gentlemen. Thank you for your time and thanks for what you're doing for the continent. Let's start with you, David Matsanga. The PanAfrican Forum Limited expressed its displeasure with the actions of Prime Minister Ahmed. Now, David, how did that action make you as an African feel?
First of all, good evening, viewers, good evening, Africans, good evening, the entire globe, wherever you are. Any Pan-African, anybody who supports the Pan-African cause should be very, very worried about the Ethiopian Prime Minister. I felt so bad that in the 37 years that some of us have been in the diaspora, not in our homes, I don't remember having written such a letter to bring down another African guy who has taken over a position which is now for the entire continent. So actions of this type of seriousness reminds me of Pol Pot of Cambodia. You remember in Kampuchea, Pol Pot used to even recall diplomats whom he felt they should be penalized. He used to even put drugs in their bags so that they could be arrested. The Cambodians suffered. I don't think Dr. Abiy Ahmed is far from being Pol Pot.
Well, before I actually go to Simon, Simon, I'll come back to you quickly, but let me, just like a follow-up to what David has said, the WHO responded almost immediately and, of course, supported very rightly, as some have addressed that within the WHO, the Director General. Do you think that was disrespectful to Africa and the government of Ethiopia, knowing full well that, well, the government of Ethiopia has every right to express its own misgivings on the situation in the country? David?
How does he express that Dr. Tedros is no longer Ethiopian? Dr. Tedros is now an African material. All African countries in the Commonwealth were told to support Dr. Tedros. The moment Ethiopia put the name across, the Ethiopian government should have come back to us to ask all of us, African countries, whether we can withdraw our support. But he didn't write to any African country. He didn't consult us. Because then why did Dr. Tedros come to African countries to seek support? Why did he come to all Pacific countries, that Caribbean countries, to seek support? Because he now became a candidate for Pan-Africanism. If you remove Dr. Tedros, that post will not come to Africa for many years to come. We can't take, let's be honest, Dr. Abiy Ahmed is acting like is worse than a terrorist.
I think that's too harsh a word, but I'll come back to you so that you can express more. No, David, I'll come back to you. Now, honestly, just a minute. Let me go to Simon. I'll come back to you so that you can tell us more why you have so described Abiy Ahmed as a terrorist. Quickly here, Simon, good to see you and thanks for your time. And I know you've been following developments. Quickly, let us in on the situation in Tigray at the moment.
Thank you for having me here. I do appreciate and thank Village Square Africa for being a voice to my people that are suffering right now. As most of us have followed, the situation back in Tigray, which is my home nation, is very horrible. The biggest hospital has gone out of medication. Currently they're recycling gloves. Imagine living in the 21st century and you have to recycle. They're literally washing gloves to help patients. My friend David said Abiy Ahmed is a terrorist. I do agree with that. He's terrorizing a whole nation. 5.6 million people are in dire need of medical, food, and other necessity supplies. And he's cut off the nation out of any kind of aid that is supposed to be coming in. And that for me is a textbook terrorism. Imagine having to live in this era where we claim to say humanity is our priority, and we fight and defend humanity. And while there's a government in Ethiopia that is currently blocking any kind of human aid to go into Tigray. Tigrayans right now are suffering, and that's because Dr. Abiy is basically has chosen to kind of make them suffer. As simple as that. And yes, he is a true terrorist. And thank you for describing him as such, David.
Well, I still with you, Simon, before we go to David. The issue at home, specifically Ethiopia, seems to be affecting those in the diaspora already. We hear there are clashes between the Tigrayan people and other Ethiopians. What can you say about that?
To be honest with you, the clash is not between the Tigrayans and other Ethiopians. It's more of the Tigrayan against a given elite group that has been very vocal in the Ethiopian political discourse. These people have been preaching hate against Tigrayans for the past 30 years in the name of politics. They've built multiple gigantic medias, and they use these medias to kind of spread hate and kind of incite violence against innocent Tigrayans. Keep in mind, it's not just against Tigrayans. Even the Oromo people, even most minority groups in Tigray have been subject to this hate speech and kind of motivations to be attacked by this elites. So we need to keep that in mind, because most people assume it's the Tigrayans against the Ethiopians. In reality, it's not. It's a group of elites that have been vocal in the Ethiopian politics for a very long time, and they've been using every single resource that they have, spending millions and millions of dollars to kind of preach hate against a given society. And that's what we're seeing right now. And because they're very vocal and they have huge voice in terms of they own the medias, they own the narratives, they own big social media accounts, they're using that to sound as if they're representing Ethiopia, when in reality that's not the reality. Majority of Ethiopians are peace-loving, innocent, Ethiopians. Nobody in Ethiopia, in their right mind, would allow the current subjugation and siege that is going against the Tigrayans. So that's my point on that.
Let me bring in David. I did say I was going to ask David why he so described the Prime Minister as a terrorist. Even the Simon has agreed with you. But quickly here, let us in on why you have said that. You know, that's a president, or Prime Minister rather, who's trying to, you know, bring his country back together as one. So,
no, he can't be a president, but he's a president of George Soros. This young man of Ethiopia has never worked anywhere. He has only worked with George Soros, a CIA outfit that overthrows governments in Africa. I've traced his record. I have evidence to show that he came in Ethiopian system to dismember Ethiopia. We have evidence, international intelligence systems. And for me to come on this international television to tell you that I have no respect for a man who was rushed to get a Nobel Prize, prize as a Nobel to share. You must be wondering how. What did he do on earth? Did he discover water in Ethiopia? Did he discover what? This guy, first of all, African heads of state must know he is a George Soros product. When he reached Ethiopia, they turned on him. He didn't do what George Soros wanted. And then he turned on dismembering the same state with a good GDP. Ethiopia had grown. We are proud of Ethiopia. The gentleman up here runs everywhere. He's in Turkey, he's in United Arab Emirates, he is in Qatar dealing with terrorists of Qatar, bringing in arms to kill Africa. Turkey is one of the countries in the world that we should condemn as Africans. And we are not going to keep quiet, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's certainly keeping quiet. David, sorry again to cut you here. Certainly keeping quiet isn't an option when and if one part of, excuse me, a part of the world is in dire, you know, straits. The entire continent must come together. Very quickly here, the United States Secretary of State sometimes last year described the war as an ethnic cleansing. So, David, do you think that's what it is?
Yes, that's where we are heading. That's what the terrorists do. That's why I'm qualifying the word terrorist. He's like Al-Shabaab that has cut off everybody in Somalia, and they are not receiving even medical treatment. What do you call such a person? Is he not a terrorist? He's a terrorist. And leaders of Africa, I want to call upon the African heads of state. He has now written after my letter, he has written a letter trying to please people that Ethiopia is a good place. Come for the summit. We shall not come. We shall not come. The leaders in Africa who listen to Matsanga's voice as a Pan-African man, we are not coming, Mr. Abiy Ahmed. You are not worth a person for us to visit Addis Ababa. We shall do the program on virtual. We shall see you on camera, but not in person. That is the campaign I'm going to write tomorrow, to deliver letters to all African heads of state, never to step in Addis Ababa. And I want to tell you the truth. How do you go to Addis Ababa when rebels are 20 kilometers away? Which African head of state should risk himself to go to Addis Ababa? What security do you have? The rebels are 20 kilometers away from Addis Ababa. How are you going to go there? The war is not yet ended. For us to risk our presidents on the African continent to go and sit in that building, no. Therefore, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, you touched the wrong button. I am going to molest you internationally. I am going to take you every court. And I want to tell you that I am moving. I'm not from Tigray. But I feel for those guys who have no medicine, who have no access to food. I am taking you to the Old Bailey in London. Should your plane ever pass London, we shall arrest you.
And Simon, you know, it's over a year, specifically more than 400 days since that, you know, onslaught began. Do you smell any complicity of the international community in this conflict?
In my opinion, what's happening right now is the international community is trying to bring a political solution to a humanitarian crisis. They're trying to be politically correct. They're trying to keep their geopolitical interests and the likes, trying to make sure they do have stakes and interest within the Horn. But what they're not realizing is what we're facing is not a political problem, rather it's a humanitarian crisis. And humanitarian crisis needs urgent action. And the world has not understood that. They still think this is a political crisis and the political solution needs to be delivered. That's what the world is seeing it as. And they want to have negotiations. They want to have two parties to sit down and discuss. In my opinion, and most Tigrayans will tell you, we don't care about the negotiations. We don't care about what happens. We just want cessation of hostility. What we care about is food being delivered, airdrop. It's very easy for the United Nations to drop food to the Tigrayans. You could create an air bridge and drop food. So the international community is feeding Tigray. The WHO director, the World Health Organization director, Tedros Ghebreyesus stated, we have failed Tigray. And he's right in saying that because, you know, think about it. Children are dying because of lack of food. Medication is not just limited. There's no such thing as medication in Tigray right now. So, in my opinion, the international community is still looking for a political solution for a humanitarian crisis, which is insane and unhuman.
Well, David Matsanga, let us, you know, go back a bit and help play some bit of catch-up for those who may have missed how we got here. How did we get here from the coalition that produced Ahmed, the Prosperity Party, the TPLF, and the role of Eritrea in this conflict?
First of all, there have been two prime ministers since the fall of Mengistu Haile Mariam. I was a great friend of Prime Minister, the late Zenawi. I worked with Zenawi. I worked with Isaias Afeki in London. We were given offices by the British government to work on refugee resettlement. From 1987, we worked together. My friends left and they went home to liberate their country. The two gentlemen. Dr. Tedros was a young man coming to work in our offices as an intern when he was studying in Nottingham University. So I know that these guys very well. The two prime ministers, Zenawi appointed the one who replaced him as a foreign minister. I have been on serious missions. Their Pan-African zeal, the nature of thinking for the people. They did not think for themselves. They did not think for Tigray. Zenawi never fought for Tigray. Zenawi fought for the entire region of Ethiopia. That's why Ethiopia, within a short time, Ethiopia grew up with a very good GDP in the region. Ethiopia was the only country in Africa where you can leave a phone on a table and find it, because it has very tight system of checking who has stolen which phone and where. This was a great, admirable country. I've been going to the AU for all the times that I have been aware of politics on African continent. I found it very interesting that this gentleman comes to power with a docket armed with George Soros' money. And he was sent to destroy the unity between TPLF and other tribes, between Tigray and other tribes. Immediately he started arresting, detaining, discriminating, removing, sacking Tigrayans from the government. The conflict started. When you do such things as a leader, it is only stupidity that can control you but not the knowledge that we have studied. Immediately, one of the problems that Africans should understand and know, one of the mistakes that Dr. Abiy Ahmed made was to shake hands with Mr. Isaias Afwerki. He is one of the Pol Pots of Africa. Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea has killed more people than Pol Pot of Cambodia. And these are facts that African heads of state keep quiet about. These are killers. This is a killer who has killed so many people. So many Eritreans are dying in the Mediterranean Sea, fleeing his country. Then this gentleman went to shake hands with a Pol Pot of Africa, a Cambodian type of Pol Pot, who went in and sent his army into Tigray to kill people. I am going to take them to the court. They will not escape. They will not escape the genocide they have committed against the people of Tigray.
Well, you think this is some form of genocide? Because, well, let us...
yes.
Okay, all right. Simon, help us here. Your foundation and group, DW Foundation, they've been, taking inventory of what exactly is happening in the Tigrayan region. Paint us a picture of situation there.
A couple of things to refer to this and kudos to my friend David has mentioned them. The involvement of foreign interference as well. People like Isaias Afwerki are meddling in Ethiopian affairs, and the minute Isaias Afwerki was brought to the picture of this foreign affairs, everything has gone down. The crisis that have been happening for years is because of his involvement and the like. But let's talk about why we refer this as a genocide. The textbook definition of a genocide is trying to eradicate a given identity, right? And the Tigrayan identity as a nation is facing that right now. And there's multiple reasons for us to say that. When the war first started, November 4th of last year, the Eritrean troops, the Ethiopian troops, the Fano militias, these are hooligans and a group of terrorists that are formed in some kind of, illegal, I don't know how you want to call it. It's a bunch of thugs that have taken arms to kind of attack Tigrayans, and multiple other regional forces were deployed to Tigray in the name of law enforcement. But what happened is the reality was not that. What happened was Tigrayans were being massacred, were being killed. Innocent children at the age of 14, 13 were being killed. Troops, the Eritrean troops that were held captive by the Tigrayan forces have said the orders that we've gotten from the leaders is to kill anybody that's a boy and over the age of 7. And this has been recorded, and the videos are out there, them talking in regards to this. And then there's handheld evidence, including documents that show that the Eritrean troops were sent to Tigray to kind of eradicate anybody that's the age of 7 and above, if it's a male. So that by itself is a textbook definition of a genocide. In addition to that, rape has been committed. The United Nations says this. Industrial scale of rape has happened in Tigray, and it was used as a weapon of war. Imagine, in the 21st century, using rape as a weapon of war. If that doesn't scream genocide, I don't know what will. 81, 82-year-old grandmothers were raped in front of their children. Imagine being a grandmother and being raped in front of your children. And I'm talking about multiple men, troops, kind of, using this innocent mothers as a toy, per se. So if this doesn't scream as a genocide, I don't know what will. And you can see it in a broader scale as well. If you go to Addis Ababa right now, there's over 60,000 Tigrayans that are detained just because they're Tigrayans. They're going through unimaginable torture. They're being beaten. They're being thrown under water. They don't get water to drink. They're not. I got a friend that told me a woman gave birth in the detention camp, in one of these concentration camps. A woman gave birth, and there was no medical supply that was given to her. If this doesn't scream as a genocide, I don't know what would. And what makes this crazy is the Ethiopian government uses the name Pan-Africanism to kind of ethnically cleanse innocent Tigrayans. And what is happening is they're using, we don't need foreign intervention. That's the slogan that they use. They say, we don't want any international community to involve in our foreign affairs. I mean, in our internal affairs. And what's funny is, this government, the same government, is being funded by the Turkish, the United Arab Emirates, and the likes. They're getting drones supplied to them to kind of bomb cities. Yesterday in Koram, 23 innocent people were bombarded by a drone attack. A 5 months child was killed in this drone attack. A couple of days ago, 53 innocent people in Maicho were massacred by this drone attacks. And what's funny is the involvement of foreign parties like the Ethiopian government, the Turkish government, the United Arab Emirates, and other players as well. And they keep claiming we don't need international intervention in this. How can you have other nations involving that are supporting a genocide to be a part of this massacre, but you don't want international community to be a part of trying to bring a solution to you, to bring food to those people that are currently dying because of lack of food? This
I see the point there, Simon. Some form of logical, reasoning and questions you're bringing up there. Let's bring in David here before we go on the break. David, listening to you both, you also mentioned Afwerki earlier on. Some people have said that Abiy and Afwerki settlement in 2018 was important to what has become the conflict of now. So in hindsight, David, do you think Afwerki and Ahmed reunited Ethiopia and Eritrea just to battle Tigray?
The answer is straight, yes. They all hate Tigray. They all hate Tigray. I will tell you instances in our office, in Hurlingham, in Hyper and Islington, in London. We used to work, all of us, 4 of us, and the 6 of us. We had a lot of volunteers. But Mr. Isaias Afwerki he always wanted to pull us, Ugandans, to backbite the now. All the time, there is that general hatred that came out. And this, when they arrived after removing Mengistu Haile Mariam, that hatred is the one that caused a country called Eritrea. It is why Eritrea, Zenawi died when he had not said hello to Afwerki. I tried several times to fly between Addis Ababa, London, to say, what happened to you people? They never wanted to reconcile. Then now we said that gentleman is a terrorist. That's all, that's the words. And today I am right to use the same words on the current Prime Minister. Their unity, I wrote a document to the African Union. I said it is too early for Ethiopian Prime Minister to shake hands with Isaias Afwerki. He's going to create a problem in the region. I was right. I have been vindicated. Because that was the beginning. Imagine what Simon is saying. Eritrea sent in really heavy armed men with the latest sophisticated equipment to kill. There was no war. There was no war here. This is killing, walking over people and slaughtering people. And then they withdrew back, and then they are near the border. They are going in at night to kill more, and the world is watching. We cannot sit watching when people are being killed.
Certainly, Africans can't sit and watch and see that women and children are being killed and displaced, and of course, the very bright future of the continent are being cut short. We'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll talk more about the crisis in Ethiopia and how it's affecting badly the Tigrayan people, and also talk about the AU in all of this and how can this be resolved. That's when we return. Join us again. Well, the United Nations and the US and other powerful entities of the world have tried to wade in for peace in Ethiopia. But Prime Minister Ahmed, a Nobel Prize winner for peace, thinks otherwise. Now, it may be time for diplomacy to work, as efforts have been ramped up in the last few days. But as a matter of urgency, the world asks Ethiopia to allow food and medicine to its people. A humanitarian crisis has ensued, and without food and medicine in adequate amounts, the bad days may not be over. Stay with me on this. David Matsanga and Simon Tesfaye with me on the square. Now, quickly here, before that break, there are about 40,000 Ethiopians living in Columbus, Ohio, and recently news emerged, Simon, that Ethiopians revolted against a particular pastor for changing the language of his preaching to Tigrayan and Amharic. Now, are such moves necessary, and how far-reaching has this conflict gone, leaving the continent to other parts of the world, Simon?
So the thing with that is, it's kind of an elite fight where they're trying to dominate a given language against the other. That has been a problem for the very long in Ethiopia. There are a certain group of people that want to define Ethiopia as a given language and culture, while Ethiopia is a diverse nation with more than 80 languages and cultures. So this kind of sentiments and ideologies has been going on for a very, very long time. And the fight has gone out of the country to the continent and now to international conflict, international misunderstandings and kind of going back and forth. So it is understandable because Ethiopians live all across the world. There's more than 500,000 Ethiopians residing in the US and way more in Europe as well. You go anywhere in the world, you will find Ethiopians. And most of them come from a different ethnic background, like Tigrayans, Oromos, Somalians, Gurages. It's a whole bunch of Tigrayans from a different identity. And the fight is between those who don't understand diversity and inclusion and those who want to impose a given identity towards the rest. So it's, for the longest, the language Amharic has been the dominant language in Ethiopia. And the reason behind it is, as I said, the elites of this given identity have had loud voices. They own the medias, they operate the narration and the likes. So they've tried to push that language to become the one language of Ethiopia. They believe in one Ethiopia, while the rest of the nation believes in diversified and inclusive Ethiopia, where multinational Ethiopians can survive within a given nation. That's the idea of Meles and the federal system. And that's how it included every nation has the right to self-administrate, the right to talk in their language, and the right to express their culture. And the other part that does not agree with this believes Ethiopia should be one. We should not have multiple identities within, and we should be called Ethiopians and have one language. And this is why, when you check the pretext of this definition, if a person believes in this, the only solution to this is to eradicate the other language, right? And the way to do that is either you kill that person or don't allow him to speak that language. So this fight against Tigray, most people think started a year when November 4, when the Ethiopian troops and the Eritreans marched to Tigray. But this fight has been going on internally for a very long time.
So Simon, is safe enough for some, to go with the argument that this looks like some ethnic cleansing?
It is more than ethnic cleansing. It is a genocide. That's why we call it a genocide. As I said, the war, even though Abiy Ahmed is the immediate cause for the war to happen, the force behind him has been fighting this fight for centuries. They're using Abiy Ahmed as a tool to kind of impose their ideology of what Ethiopia should be. These people claim to be superiors, not just within the given ethnic groups of Ethiopia, but Africans. These people have gone on multiple media claiming they're the elite Africans. Africa is nothing without them. And they want to impose that ideology, not just within Ethiopia, but across the nation, across...
Any idea, Simon, who these people are?
Oh, the Amhara elites. And everybody knows them as such. So the Amhara elites, they've been going after that ideology for centuries. They have, mogul musicians that have millions and millions of followers that support this ideology. They have medias like the Ethiopian satellite television that is owned and operated by them, that has been existing. By the way, this media called ESAT, it's headquartered in Washington. They had a documentary made that stated, in order for us to solve the current crisis in Ethiopia, we have to, so they refer to Tigrayans as fish. In order for us to kill, they refer the Tigrayan government as fish. Because the Tigrayan government is the one government that's standing against their ideology and fighting back. So they say, in order for us to kill this fish, we have to drain the water, meaning we have to kill all Tigrayans so that this party doesn't exist. This is a very, very big mentality. Imagine assuming you could eradicate a whole identity so that you could impose your ideology. So this is a fight between those who want to survive as one, a given identity, and those who are trying to eradicate them from existence because their ideology doesn't match with them. The idea of inclusion does not, is not entertained within this elite community.
Let me bring in David Matsanga here. Help us here, David. How easy is it for someone who's won a Nobel Prize for Peace to be so used to, cause the kind of, devastation and destruction in his own country? Because if you go with what Simon has highlighted, looking at what is happening in other parts, outside the continent, would it be safe to say, this is something also bigger than PM Abiy Ahmed?
First of all, I agree with Simon. This has been going on for many years. We used to have Emperor Haile Selassie. We used to have Mengistu Haile Mariam. If you look back and see, there has been, you need a leader who can stand and say, Ethiopia remains Ethiopia. Okay? Then there were, now when Abiy came in, there were forces, and Simon is correct, so many forces behind him who are hidden behind this type of, profiling. And it has now become an international profiling system where they have exported it to other countries. What is happening in Ethiopia is not different to what happened in Rwanda in 1994, when the Hutus called the Tutsi cockroaches. You see, you are now calling the Tigrayans fish. They kill the fish, remove the water. Such statements in Africa breed conflicts. Now, the biggest problem that I see, which is coming on our continent, and we have to be very, very careful. This is happening already on our continent. It has happened in Libya, where Libya has been split into two. Turkey has become a new colonial master, a new neo-colonial crony of most of the African states, especially in the Horn of East Africa. Turkey is sponsoring terrorism in Libya. Turkey is sponsoring terrorism in Ethiopia against the Tigray. Turkey is sponsoring confusion in Somalia against Kenya and other countries. So we must be very careful. Turkey, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, these countries have made money out of our ignorance. They were lucky. They have no democracy at their homes. You can imagine there is one man who has remained the president in a developed country like Turkey, who is from a prime minister to president, is still there. He is exporting a very dangerous ideology. He is interfering in countries like Kenya. He is sponsoring opposition leaders in countries like Kenya, where he is sponsoring the leader of opposition, the deputy president, against the president. We know all this. This is happening. So when you come with external forces, darker forces, that have come, that have united with Dr. Abiy Ahmed to kill the smallest tribe, to kill the Tigrayans.
David Matsanga, quickly, let me throw this in to you. You know, one staggering discovery so far is that majority of the Ethiopian populace, other than the Tigrayan people, of course, seem to be in agreement with the actions of the government. Why do you think this is so?
Where do you get your logistics?
How many of the Ethiopians, when you look at what is happening, how many of the, hold on, David, how many Ethiopians have you seen, you know, openly, you know, criticize the government for what it's doing, other than the Tigrayan people? Now we have you, who is not an Ethiopian, we have Simon, who is a Tigrayan, but it looks like almost every other aspect of Ethiopia who are not Tigrayan, they seem to be in agreement with what the government is doing to the Tigrayan people. Simon, help us here. I'll come back to David. Haven't you also noticed that, Simon?
Here's a couple of things to keep in mind as well. As I said earlier, these people that are against or that are supporting this genocide have been very vocal and very loud for the past 30 years or so, since the EPRD, the formation of the Ethiopian People's Revolution Democracy Party. So, as I say, it's very hard to say majority of Ethiopians support the action that is taken against Tigrayans, because we do not know the numbers. There's no free media. There's no access to these people. You can't go there and interview them, ask them questions. The only source you have is the Ethiopian media and those the Ethiopian government's media and those who are allowed to be to speak on these medias. But that's not the point. That's way besides the point. The Ethiopian constitution says every nation has the right to self-administration, meaning Tigray as a nation has the right for its self-administration. So if the Tigrayan people say, we do not want Abiy Ahmed, that's their vote. And the constitution says they do have the right to say as such. And they can be led by a leader that they choose, because each and every region within the nation has the right to elect their own president, House of Representatives, and the likes. But Abiy Ahmed refused to accept this fact. The fact that Tigrayans do not support him. By the way, it's not just Tigrayans that do not support him. The biggest ethnic group in Ethiopia, the Oromo people, are currently fighting against them. There's two wars going on. There's the Tigray war and there's the Oromo war that's happening right now as well. The Oromo Liberation Front is currently engaged with the Ethiopian troops, and they're fighting on a daily basis. In fact, yesterday, there was a huge clash between the Oromo Liberation Front and the Ethiopian Front, where the Ethiopian troops have encountered a heavy defeat and loss. So it's hard for us to say majority of Ethiopians support Abiy Ahmed. One thing to keep in mind is majority of the Amhara elite and the Amhara people might support the Abiy Ahmed because of the ideology that Abiy Ahmed runs, which is the one Ethiopia mentality, which is kind of oppressing the rest nations and kind of imposing a given identity on them. So let's keep that in mind as well. And another factor that you want to add is the foreign involvement, which is Isaias Afwerki. If you go to Addis Ababa right now, which is the capital city of Ethiopia, it is not run by the Ethiopian authorities. It is run by the Eritrean security forces. If you go to the Ethiopian airport right now, the security check is not done by the Ethiopian police or the Ethiopian national security. It is done by the Eritrean security. This has to say a lot about what's happening in Ethiopia. To a point, you can ask the question, who is running this country? Is it Isaias Afwerki or Abiy Ahmed? Who is responsible for this? Imagine me as a Tigrayan that has an Ethiopian identity, who holds an Ethiopian passport and citizenship, walking to an Ethiopian airport and being detained by a foreign force, which is an Eritrean troop, saying just because I'm Tigrayan, I'm going to be detained. That's what's happening in Ethiopia. Imagine that. Think about this. Me, I'm an Ethiopian passport holder, Ethiopian citizen, and trying to utilize and use the Ethiopian airport to kind of travel elsewhere, and they see my passport and it says Tigrayan, and they detain me. And the people that are detaining me are not Ethiopians. They're Eritrean troops. And
that was why, sorry again, Simon, to cut in here. That was why earlier on I asked David, I said, is it safe to say the coming together of Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed was actually tactical or deliberate, just to, you know, join forces against the Tigrayans? David, I bring you here again quickly, and also weighing on the African Union that has been quiet, you know, all through this conflict. Is the AU failing at its duty to uniting the continent.
Which AU? My brother, which AU? AU died long time ago. AU died when Madame Zuma was the chairperson. The AU currently, the one you see of Mahamat Faki, the man from Chad, is dead, is rented to France. So France tells them what to do and not what to do. AU has been sleeping on duty. All these problems are in Addis Ababa. What the gentleman Simon has said is correct. A few days ago, investigative journalists from London passed through Nairobi, and they were being asked whether they have ever gone to Tigray. They said no. But the people checking passports, checking roadblocks, are Eritreans. Eritrea has literally taken over Addis Ababa and other towns. So if you are talking of AU, even in the building where AU is, Eritreans are the ones who are guarding, because most of the soldiers are not there, they are gone. So look, my dear brother, AU is calling for a summit on 30th, 31st. Who is going to attend a summit where Eritrean troops have come to Addis Ababa to occupy, to take over Ethiopia? Who? We welcomed Mr. Afaki recently from his self-imposed exile from IGAD, from AU. He has never come to that building at all. He sees it from the television. So the problem here is this: Africa should start talking about AU. The AU must change. The AU we want is an AU with teeth to bite. The AU we have today has no feet, has no legs, has no arms. It is just an observer mission.
So by international standards, David, now we're trying to close that, on this. By international standards, by all means, what will be the appropriate steps from here? Because it's obvious another year or even a month of that conflict will be devastating to Tigray and even the Ethiopian economy.
No-fly zone. America should bring a no-fly zone over Tigray to supply. I'm honest. I am not a good friend of Americans. And let people not think I like the actions, especially when I know they left us a problem in Mogadishu today. But there is no alternative now. The American government must bring in a no-fly zone in Tigray in order for the people to access food. They must drop. They must tell Turkey to remove the drones, the planes that are killing people. Point number 2, on international scene, the Nobel Prize, which was awarded to Prime Minister Dr. Abiy Ahmed, should be recalled because he has not created peace. He has created a war. I'm writing to the president of the Nobel Peace Prize winner, president who gives this money. He should not enjoy this money because he has caused the problem here. It should be recalled and taken back and given to somebody who can create peace. You can't be given a peace prize when you are a troublemaker, when you are a killer, a terrorist, a Pol Pot of Africa, of Cambodian Pol Pot in Addis Ababa. No, Nkrumah would have come to tell him. Nyerere would have already invaded him. And other people on the continent, the leaders we have, are watching genocide taking place in Tigray, killing people in Tigray. No, No.
All right, okay.
No.
Simon, let's take our closing, moments from Simon. Simon, what more should the world do to bring about the needed peace? David has just told us about the no-fly zone, which definitely will help, especially the women and children in Tigray. What else should we be looking to doing to bring about, peace in Tigray?
Definitely the big one is no-fly zone. There's no reason for a drone to fight in Mekelle and kill innocent civilians. But the other things that the world can do is, the questions that Tigrayans are asking is very simple. We're not asking for nothing big. We're asking for food, dropping food, creating an air bridge and airdropping food is one, so that people don't die because of lack of food. Second one is independent investigation, right? Me as someone, as a Tigrayan, if I'm calling for an independent investigation, and there's another party that's saying that I don't need an independent investigation, that should say a lot about that person that is denying the independent investigation, because they've committed crimes. So an independent investigation, airdropping food and medication, connecting Tigray, reconnecting Tigray, restore communication. I haven't spoken to my grandparents in Tigray for the past 14 months. 14 months, I haven't talked to them. So let me connect me with my parents and reconnect Tigray in terms of humanitarian corridors. We're not asking for nothing more. We're not asking for millions of dollars. We're not asking for political solutions. We're not asking nothing. These are simple humanitarian questions. And a single person should be, oh, if you need food, I'm going to airdrop you. And the United Nations is way capable in doing this. They don't need the consent of the Ethiopian government. They can easily airdrop food to Tigray. They can easily airdrop medication to Tigray. And they can easily impose no-fly zone in Tigray.
All right, Simon, thank you. Listening to both of you, it shows just one thing: tough days in Tigray, northern Ethiopia, and the world must stand to act. I see, David, you're trying to say something. If you can do that in about 10 seconds, because I'm out of time.
There is a point that Simon should take. Please, Simon, you are in the United States. Go to the special prosecutor, Special Anthony, and start. Sulaiman will give you my number. We are coordinated legal action against Dr. Abiy Ahmed. He will be summoned if he flies anywhere. If he flies anywhere in Europe.
Definitely is something that every African and every person of peace must look into. Come together. People are dying. Children are dying. The future is starved to death. Now, these are hard times, no doubt. The main actors should settle for the sake of the people. Many thanks for being such a nice company. David Matsanga and Simon Tesfaye and Sulaiman. We'll stay on this, but for now, bye-bye.